Hey everyone, so welcome to the Bánh Mì Chronicles podcast. So this is what I call the chill out chronicles, the cafe break, because typically I usually do a lot of episodes that are very serious, that are very introspective, and that goes into the trauma. And I thought, well, I also want to introduce some of the joy that I have that I've been wanting to talk about, and part of it is on music. And I have been a big fan of the Pop Pantheon podcast, and I've listened to like the Rolling Stones, and I think I think 90s, 60 songs of the 90s and 60 songs of the 2000s. And I'm like thinking maybe I need to have my own top 25 favorite personal songs. And I want to preface it by saying there's no Taylor Swift, there's no Kanye West, no Justin Timberlake, no Nicki Minaj. So let's clear that out of the way. But none of these songs are in order, so please do not come after me. Um, so this is the first of its kind. So we're gonna go over the top 25 songs, and my friend Anjali Misra is volunteering herself to have a chat with me about it. And Anjali, we've known each other for several years. I think it's like right before the pandemic, through
Mhm.
storytelling, and we actually are connected through our work with VAI, the Vietnamese Association of Illinois. And I learned that you were an entertainment reporter, I believe, and then you also had a podcast, which I had never known about. So I'm curious about if you could share a little bit more about your own background and about your own interest in today's topic.
Yeah, thank you so much, Randy, for having me. This is so exciting. I have been so pumped about this conversation for so long. Um, just to introduce myself, Anjali Misra. I'm a community organizer and nonprofit development professional. I'm looking off screen because I have a script to be, transparent. Um, and yeah, I've been in Chicago since 2017. I have a background in radio and grassroots journalism and community theater. And at Randy, as you mentioned, I had a podcast that ran very briefly for 10 episodes
Hmm.
between 2023 and 2024.
Wow.
It was a great experience, but capacity and
Hmm.
varying circumstances prevented me from, being able to continue it. But, relevant to our conversation tonight, I was like so excited to like get back in the mix. And I've also like been an avid like music fan all of my
Hmm.
life and like a pop culture nerd. And so yeah, I in a previous life like co-hosted like pop culture trivia,
Hmm.
and yeah, I now find myself here feeling very nostalgic and like
Hmm.
grateful for the opportunity to talk with you because I know you have like a ton of pop culture knowledge and like great opinions. So
Aw.
yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's also kind of wild that we're 26 years into the century, so it was really disorienting. Like, gosh, has it been this long? And there
Mhm.
was a joke that made a meme where it was like 20 years ago, I was still an adult and I had a really hard time with that reality. I was like, dang, I was still an adult even 20 years ago. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think that looking back on this journey, there were songs that I really struggled to pull out, and I think some of it may come into a form of a top 25 album because I feel like, okay, maybe this could work. So I cannot tell you how many times I've been going in and pulling out those songs in like a matter of days. Like there would be like, oh, I gotta pull this out. The next thing you know, I pull out five more. And so this was kind of like a very tricky challenge for me. But one of the things that I thought about when I was doing it is the songs that really impacted me the most during that time, but also is it a song that really holds up well that I could actually still listen to in my playlist or when I'm out jogging or walking in this case. And I think that was something that I think about. Were there songs that were more popular than others? Sure, but I'm also like I kind of want to do some of the more um unknown or at least the most underlooked songs by certain big artists too. So yeah, so the first one I brought up was Rock With You by Janet Jackson. Now,
Mhm.
this came from the Discipline 2008 album, and this was a couple years after the Super Bowl debacle. And and by and by that time, this was like her second single, I believe, right after Feedback. And I mean, those songs were just bangers, but it didn't chart very well. And you could see the consequences of the Super Bowl really affecting her legacy around that time. And I think CBS was doing a boycott of her music because of Les Moonves. And, you know, Rock With You happens to be one of my favorite Janet songs. I think that it is a song that she doesn't play very often in concert, but she did it recently, and I just remember screaming my head off when she just uh, surprised me with that song because it is such a groovy, chill, um, relaxing dance song. And I learned that the video was done in one take. So that was also even more amazing, you know. She was already in her early 40s and and I felt like she deserved more flowers than that. But I'm curious about your own thoughts about Janet Jackson in this take. And I don't know if it's a song that you've heard, but if you have followed Janet's music in the past.
Yeah, I just upon listening to this song, I'll go back and say that like I grew up listening to Janet Jackson. My older sister, she's only 4 years older than me, is like a lifelong diehard Janet fan.
Hmm.
And yeah, again, grew up listening to her music, grew up listening to Michael's music. My parents grew up listening to the Jackson Five,
Hmm.
and so yeah, very familiar with like, yeah, just like seeing her on TV, hearing her music on the radio, hearing her music like played in like our extended families, like
Hmm.
relatives, households.
Hmm.
Um, and so like this particular song, because like I did a re-listen of all of the songs that you shared on
Hmm.
your list. I was like, oh, I'm not like super familiar with this one. I love like most of her music.
Hmm.
But yeah, this one I wasn't as familiar with. It's certainly, yeah, a powerful song,
Hmm.
a great song. Um, but I think the thing that like resonates with me about Janet Jackson as like more broadly like a artist of the last century, um is like her, yeah, like her cultural impact, I will
Hmm.
say. I think that like I think of her as like a predecessor to Beyonce, for
Hmm.
example, and like a
Hmm.
predecessor to a lot of like Black women like artists and
Hmm.
performers and singers. Um, and I don't know if you have seen the like docu series that came out a couple years ago.
Yes, yes, I did. And I think that was very interesting to kind of see where her legacy was. And also, she has always struck me as someone who's been very private, to the
Mhm.
point where she doesn't seem to really put herself in the news outside of the Super Bowl debacle and outside what was going on with Michael Jackson, her brother.
Yeah.
She kept a very low profile. And I think in some ways that kind of like harmed her legacy, or at least like didn't help her legacy, I should say, because the first 20 years of her work was like rival to like Madonna, Mariah Carey, um, way more than Paula Abdul. Like she was really transcendent. And I mean, when I
Hmm.
look at albums like Velvet Rope, the Janet album in '93, Rhythm
Yeah.
Nation,
Yeah.
All For You, like these albums are timeless. And I feel that yeah, you mentioned she was a predecessor to, like, say, a Beyonce. I also think of SZA. I think of Sierra. I think of
Hmm.
Rihanna. I mean, in terms of not only the choreography, Britney Spears, I forgot about that. I mean,
Oh my
like
God. Yeah.
it's unbelievable about the cultural impact that she has. And when you look back in her music videos, from the 86 to 2004, which is a good nearly 20 years. That was a hell of a gap, a hell of a run that she was having. And I hope that when it's all said and done, that she will get more of that respect, continued respect, because it is really hard to um think about who else could have done it other than the other artists, her peers that were already doing that.
Agreed. 100%.
Yeah. So
Yep.
the next one,
Yeah.
Zero by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. So
Yeah.
I wasn't into the Yeah Yeah Yeahs until much later on. I mean, I knew about them in college back in the 2000s, but I didn't really invest myself into it. And it's funny because I had no idea that the lead singer Karen O is also mixed Korean.
Hmm.
Um, and and I remembered having this conversation with other people about the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and most people were very surprised that she's actually Korean.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that it really came more to the surface since Michelle Zauner's Crying in H Mart. She's the front person for Japanese Breakfast, and
Yeah.
and you know the Yeah Yeah Yeahs is quite an amazing band. I think that they've had quite a career. They weren't making music. Well, Karen O wasn't making music for a good decade until like 2 years ago, and since then they've been going on some big tours. And so I feel like there's more of a revival of that group. And when I think of that song Zero, um, I think of this like feel good, explosive, this really crowd pleasing uh rock anthem. And when people think of the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, one of the biggest songs was Maps, and which is a very beautiful ballad. And but for me, it's Zero. I turn it on, I'm just like very energized. I'm in my car and I turn it up. But that's the feeling that I get when I listen to them. And I saw them twice the past 2 years. I saw them last year at Chicago Theater when they were doing more of an acoustic set, which is beautifully
Awesome.
done. The first time I saw them was 2023 at the I can't remember what pavilion it is. It's next to Soldier Field, and I do not like that venue at all.
Oh,
And
is it Huntington Bank or whatever
yes,
pavilion?
yes,
Oh no. Okay. Yeah.
it is a chaotic mess, and there
Oh
were
no.
so many white men that were so obnoxious that I actually left early because it was getting under my skin. And I'm
Oh
like, okay,
shit.
I need to leave because I'm already getting very aggravated. And so, but I think that last show at the Chicago Theater redeemed it, and it just made it better because at least I'm around people who are more serious fans rather than
Yeah.
the drunkards that are like, your typical entitlement and just
Got
being
some free
very
tickets.
inappropriate.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and what do you know about their music and Karen O's impact and legacy?
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. Thank you so much for sharing just like your journey with their music. It feels so familiar and endearing because I think you and I there's a little bit of an age gap with us where
Hmm.
I was I was in high school
Hmm.
when the Yeah Yeah Yeahs really blew
Hmm.
up.
Hmm.
So I was like a freshman or sophomore in high school. And I remember yeah, like the indie and like indie grunge, indie sleaze,
Hmm.
garage rock era was like really taking off when I was in high school. And like I latched onto it as like a um like daughter of immigrant,
Hmm.
like brown kid living in like a predominantly white suburb in the
Hmm.
Midwest. And so like I fell in love with like Yeah Yeah Yeahs and the
Hmm.
Strokes and the Shins
Yeah.
and like TV on the radio and Cat
Hmm.
Power and that
Yes.
whole yeah like genre of music. And like till this day like that's my nostalgia music. Like that's my comfort music.
Wow.
And like, I have them all on CD and like in
Mm.
some case in vinyl. I've held on to all of this like, like hard copy media, like even in the digital age and shit like that. And so, yeah, it's like very near to my heart, very dear to my heart. Yeah, I was like so lucky to see Yeah Yeah Yeahs at Lala
Mm.
several years ago. Um, and yeah, the notes I made about your particular um, entry in this
Mm.
list was that I love this song Zero
Mhm.
as much as almost all of their songs.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to pick a favorite.
It is. It really is, and thank you for sharing that. And I also wonder, like, this is like a very hipster era too. Like the indie bands during that time, Death Cab for Cutie,
Yeah.
Postal Service, the
Yes.
Strokes you just mentioned, Arctic Monkeys. But I remembered I was also into like the record buying experience, going to like a place like Reckless Records in Chicago. I know you didn't live in Chicago back then,
Yeah.
but like I used to go to those places and I would find some of the more like hidden or like below the surface kind of artists that I got to experience the hipster side of things, like the realness of it as a college student.
Yeah.
And I felt like that kind of gravitated away. I got gravitated away from pop music for a moment,
Hmm.
and I got more into like the alternative rock, indie rock,
Yeah.
um, and the yeah yeah yeahs. At that time it didn't really come up for me enough. It didn't stick immediately. But then like as the years went on, I was like, yeah, gosh, what did I miss out on? And I'm glad to be back on that wagon and staying on that wagon because she's remarkable. I think she's such a great visual artist and really just a ball of energy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yep.
let's go. Yeah, let's go to the next one.
Cool.
Number three would be Hung Up by Madonna. And for some of my friends, a lot of people know me as someone that talks about her. And Madonna has always been like a person who, despite a lot of her shortcomings, has been one of the artists that I've always gravitated to growing up as a kid. And as someone who was very closeted, who didn't really understand the queer world, um, and and really didn't see myself in any other like platforms but her. Like, I thought about like some of her dancers who are black and brown, and there's one Asian person named Kevin Stay who I had on my podcast several years ago, and I
Wow.
was so gravitated towards like the Blonde Ambition tour, specifically the Truth or Dare documentary, which is really one of my favorite documentaries because I think I go back to that documentary as a 12-year-old and how ballsy she was, and how bold she was. I mean, my favorite scene was when she was told by the cops that she's not allowed in Toronto of all places that she was not allowed to do the Like a Virgin performance where she simulated masturbation on a bed, and she basically told her manager to tell the police that I'm not changing my show. There's nothing to talk about. I'm not changing my show. And
Yeah.
I thought about how that moment had always been a catalyst for me to stand up for myself, but to also really believe in your vision, even though there may be consequences. And I felt like she was a person who was very willing to take a lot of creative risk.
Hmm.
Um, for all her faults, it doesn't always work, but in some cases, when it lands, it really landed. Um,
Hmm.
and in 2005, Hung Up by Madonna was, to me, was such a refreshing song because it came right after the 2003 American Life album, which didn't hit very well. It is a great album in my opinion, but this brought her more to the dance circle, which a lot of her queer male fans really wanted her to stay in, and boy, she delivered. And when she did Hung Up, yeah, like this was a sample from ABBA's "Gimme Gimme Gimme," and ABBA, from what I've heard, is notoriously fickle about letting anyone sample their music, and she was an exception. She was given the green light, and I think from what I remembered, she fell off a horse like a couple like weeks prior to filming that video, that iconic video. And you can
Oh,
kind of
geez.
see her holding her left hand a little bit in one part where she was walking. And I mean, she performed like a pro that she was. I mean, the video is timeless. I love it towards the end where she was like literally on the doing the dance revolution in in doing that move and doing that hard choreography. I'm like, wow, she was about to turn 50. And this was during the time when she was starting to like break away from Guy Ritchie. She was starting to break away from the the British Madonna to more of like, okay, I'm gonna go back to being sexy and being very um bold again. And I mean, that album was great. The tour that followed was even better. Like, I think for a
Yeah,
lot of hardcore fans, the Confessions tour is still one of the best Madonna tours, probably in most of her career, because she was an athlete. She was really um performing some of the best songs from that album, but like she reworked some of the older hits, and it is remarkable. I mean, I saw that tour twice, and it was such a visual treat for me. And but hung up when I listen to it, it's like, wow, this video, the song still holds up very well 20 years later. And I also have to say this was probably like the last good Madonna album she has released, because after that it's been really hard to listen to. And she is supposedly working on the Confessions 2 album. So I
interesting.
hope it's gonna be okay. Hope it's gonna be good. But I mean, her last couple of releases have not done it for a lot of people. So, but this to
Yeah.
me was like the last. But what was your thoughts about Madonna growing up, and what did you remember about her? Because I know, like, I'm a little bit more on the older side, but but people that came after me, like Madonna was kind of like an afterthought to a lot of younger generations. It's
Yeah, I grew up with the like late 80s, early 90s era of
Mhm,
Madonna. And so like, the Like a Prayer album came
mhm,
out in 89 when I was born.
mhm,
And so but like, because of radio play and
mhm,
music circulation and pop culture in the early 90s, like I grew up hearing that album.
mhm,
And so like my earliest like memories are of hearing like the Madonna Like a Prayer album and like Michael Jackson's Thriller album
mhm,
and like Nirvana. so
mhm, yeah.
um so I remember like yeah, it's very like embedded in my memory of hearing and like till this day like a prayer is one of my favorite
Mm,
Madonna songs.
mhm.
And then like even later I think she contributed to a soundtrack for a film with Brendan Fraser with honors.
Oh,
That was
yes,
the
I
name.
remember.
I remember.
Wow, that's an underappreciated hit. People forget about
Yeah.
that one. Yeah.
And for some reason, like that became very like imprinted in my memory of like, oh, like what an iconic Madonna song. But like when I bring it up with people, they're like, I don't know that song. So it's so funny. And I will say I totally 100% agree with you
Mhm.
that like post
Post Guy
what's
Ritchie, I
that?
would say, yeah. Post
Yeah,
marriage.
like yeah, like she like her renaissance felt
Mhm.
very powerful.
Yeah.
But then what was the album you named that like was like her last like good album?
Confessions on the Dance Floor. That's what hung up. Yeah.
100% agree.
Yeah. Mhm. Yes.
100% agree. Yeah, because after that it got a little, I don't know
She's
the
worked with
word for
Timberlake.
it.
She worked with Timberlake and Timbaland, which was already kind of like, yeah, that didn't
Yeah.
sit well. Because I think what I realized is that she was playing a back seat, like back, because for a while, like she was a person that didn't do many collaborations. Like, like
Yeah.
it was always her. And then when she started doing
Right.
collaborations with Timberlake, Timbaland, then with
Right.
Nicki Minaj, and I'm trying to remember, like Avicii, and like she was it never felt cohesive. Like she was working with so many different like trend artists, and it's like, and trend producers, and
Yeah.
it just it felt like she was losing her identity pretty quickly.
Yeah,
And
I
if yeah.
agree.
Mhm.
And I wonder if part of it is because at a certain point in when you get to a certain level of celebrity, you almost like lose control of like that identity
Mm-hmm.
where you're like, I, I'm just like reflecting on like interviews I've seen and like documentaries and things like that, or like even memoirs I've read of like pop stars,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like you get to a certain point of celebrity where you're like, my real self is so separate from my
Mm-hmm.
celebrity self.
Mm-hmm.
And so the my celebrity self belongs to someone else, or
Mm-hmm.
like it belongs to the industry, or it belongs to this company or this
Mm-hmm.
group of people
Mm-hmm.
who are producers and things like that. And so I wonder if that's what happened with Madonna,
Mm-hmm.
quite frankly.
Yeah, and I think that as she got older, it was, I mean, the industry is very ageist towards women,
Yeah, exactly.
and I think it was very hard for her when she was not reaching the number one hits, or she was not getting played on radio, or people were not taking her seriously.
Yeah.
And I felt that she was trying so hard to court the younger audiences that she alienated a lot of older audiences who were really
Yeah.
with her. And like, why are you pivoting
Hmm.
towards it? But I would say that she's been starting to come back more into her roots because she did her celebration tour like 2 years ago, and
Yeah.
she did a lot of her hits because the last couple of tours she was doing, she would only do just a couple of hits, but focus on the new album, which was to everyone's chagrin. It's like, okay, but you're not getting any hits out of those new albums. No one's really listening
Mm,
to it. And I've been in shows where people would sit down and be like, yeah, this is I don't connect with this.
oh,
And they were much older too. They were in their 50s,
yeah.
and it was hard for people to leave that show be like, yeah, like I think she still got it, but I wish she had performed some of the other hits that she has because her catalog is humongous. And
Yeah.
but Celebration Tour, she kind of brought a lot of it back. So I'm glad that she's starting to focus on her legacy, and I feel like
Hmm.
that's where she needs to be because as a person that's pushing 70 years old, I really hope that that is the lane she stays on because I feel like spending all these years courting young audiences in that kind of way, competing with the Lady Gagas and the Rihannas of the world is not fruitful. I think that it has to be a reminder of the impact that she
Yeah.
laid the groundwork for. So, yeah,
Agreed.
but yeah. So the next one, um,
Yes.
Cut to the Feeling by Carly Rae Jepsen. I would not put Call Me Maybe. I get very annoyed as a gay man that people will say, "Oh, Carly Rae Jepsen, didn't she do Call Me Maybe?" It's like, yes, but she's got better songs than that. Please do not reduce it to that one song. And but she has amassed a huge cult following
Mhm.
after that song. Like, even though she may not have carried the chart-topping hits like a Taylor Swift, which I do blame that on Scooter Braun, her manager too. Um, but she really stayed to her dance and to her songwriting roots. And my God, she keeps delivering hit like really gems after gems, and
Yeah.
it's it has a chokehold. And when I think of Cut to the Feeling, and this came like around, I believe it was 2017 when it was released as part of the Emotion B-side, which
Mhm.
is wild because the Emotion album was already like a banger.
Yeah.
It's a no skip album,
Mhm.
and it was recorded for the soundtrack to an animation movie, Leap. And God, every time I hear that song, it's just so refreshing. And I heard her perform that song when I saw her at the Metro, the Lollapalooza after party, and it was
Yes.
such a great show. I think she gave you 2 hours of performing, and she got a lot of like old, like um like B-side songs too that she hadn't really performed live, and it was such a treat.
Mhm.
She's very likable on stage. I think that she has produced so many songs. I think she would write like 100 songs per album, which is wild to me. So,
Wow.
but yeah, Carly Rae does not seem to get the love on a mainstream level outside of her own core fan base. But I'm curious about your own thoughts about Carly Rae Jepsen. Were you also like, because I know as a queer person, were you gravitated towards her music, outside of that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was so happy that you included her um, in your list because agreed 100%. underrated, deserves her flowers,
Mhm,
has not gotten her flowers in the way that I I will say, like, in the very like queer music
mhm,
scene, she is very
mhm.
loved and
Yes.
lauded, as we both know. Um,
She's kind of like our Kylie Minogue in a way too. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. But again, she hasn't gotten that sort of like mainstream, above ground,
Sure.
whatever,
Hmm. Hmm.
beyond that fucking
Super
sorry,
brawn.
but like beyond
Yeah.
the
Yes.
one hit wonder, like Call Me Maybe.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, I think that, like, to
Mm,
her team's credit, like, they have tried to like market her beyond that and be like, wait, she's more, she's so talented. But the industry is what it
mm,
is. She's competing against a lot of these other industry sort of pop ingenues,
mhm,
and everyone's got their like little niche, right?
mhm,
And so my reading of her um marketing is that she doesn't quite fit the niche
mhm,
that like certain other pop
mhm,
icons do,
mhm,
which is unfortunate because, again, agree with you, so talented. Uh Incredible lyricist, incredible
mhm.
singer.
Catchy
You know,
songs too. It's
yeah.
like hello. It's like this
Yeah,
should be a number one hit because it's a banger. It catches on like glue. And but
100%.
but I also think that she doesn't seem interested in the fanfare, the fame, like courting the fame of it outside of it. I mean, which is great. I mean, which is
Yeah.
fine. I mean, she's now married and has a child, became a
She's
mom.
in it for the music.
And I think that and her fans are gonna stand by her very strong, like me and like you. And we're gonna be
Yeah.
like, we're holding on pretty tight with her. So yeah,
Yeah.
much love to Carly Rae. And next
Yeah.
one is one of my favorite songs. I mean, my friend Jung and I like talk about the song ad nauseum, but Electric Feel by MGMT. And
Yay.
this was like around 2007, 2008. And I remember hearing that song for the first time when I was at Lollapalooza 2008. It was during the daytime, and I remember just walking past, and I'm like, wow, everyone's kind of swaying, and it was it was like people were in a trance. And when Electric Feel came out, I was like, wow, this is such a dope record. I mean, I could listen to it ad nauseum. And one of my favorite moments about that song was Kid Cudi coming up on stage and dancing, just being himself. And I'm like, yeah, go kid. And so, yeah, was what were your thoughts about MGMT? Because at that time they were really emerging as an
Yeah.
indie band that was already starting to mainstream the way like the Black Keys were,
Yeah.
and a few other bands similar to their peers.
I am so excited to share that when I read your notes, I was like, Randy, we were at the same show.
Oh, get out of here. That's so great. You know,
Yeah. So
yeah.
like I like feel like this has happened to me a couple times where like
Wow.
I tell someone where I'm like, oh, I was at this show and I saw this band live, and they're like, I was there too. What the hell? And so yeah, I was absolutely 2008 Lollapalooza, MGMT.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was, and I saw Kid Cudi like come on
Yes.
stage. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like very, very cool. And I had like just heard about this band. Obviously, they would
Mhm.
like blew up like very
Yeah.
quickly. And it was so cool. Yeah, the vibes are really cool.
Hmm.
Are really cool at that show.
Hmm.
I don't know what your memories are beyond like, yeah, being like, oh, it's like super like excited and interested in this band, but I was just like, I remember that like so many other bands played that night, and like the accumulated effect of like, because like I think MGMT played, and then also oh God, like Arcade Fire and like all of these other
Yeah.
bands. And then like at the end of the night, everyone was like singing through the streets of like downtown Chicago on
Wow.
their
Yeah.
way to the train and shit. And
Were you
um,
were you there
yeah,
for Rage Against the Machine that second night? Because that was wild.
I was there.
I was there for that when I was with a friend and she was terrified. Like it was getting so dangerous.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
it
I
was
left because it was. I'm look at me, like I'm little. I
it was
couldn't
chaotic.
handle it.
I mean, I was about to be up in the front like earlier that day, and I was like, no, I don't think I need to be up front. And
Yeah,
then I'm glad because that show had to stop a couple of times because
yep,
people were getting crushed.
yeah. Zach
And
kept having to be like,
yes,
"Y'all stop!" Like, yeah,
wow, yeah, I remember Radiohead for the first night. I mean, I was a big Radiohead fan.
I
I
saw
have
Radiohead too.
I have
Yep.
many feelings now. Um, yeah, like, but back then I was a huge Radiohead fan,
Hmm.
and I mean, yeah, that was a memorable night. I chose to see Nine Inch Nails over Kanye West, which I was like at that time I was regretting because
Mm,
I was into my big Kanye era because I mean it came I think it was his third album, the
yeah,
Graduation album, and then in hindsight, um, I don't feel so bad after all.
yeah.
But
Damn, it's so
yeah,
funny. We were at the same show.
that's wild.
We
I had no
never knew each
idea.
other.
I had no idea. I mean, it was such a
Yeah,
wild experience, you know. I mean,
yeah.
it's one of the very few festivals I've ever done because I was not because the Rage Against the Machine experience left me pretty
Sorry, that was
traumatized.
fireworks.
Oh no, no. It left me no, I actually with Rage Against the Machine, like it left me traumatized because I was
Mm,
so uncomfortable with crowds after that. Like I don't like the unpredictably unpredictability of crowds, especially
yeah,
outdoors in festivals. So I think that had made me pull back on it, ever
yeah.
since. And I'll never forget when in Rage Against the Machine or Zach basically I had my Obama shirt at that time. Everyone was all happy about Obama
Yep.
running for president, and there were
Hmm.
rumors about him making an appearance at Lollapalooza. There were a lot of rumors circling around, and then Zach got on the mic saying, "Hey, brother Obama, if you're gonna do what you say you're gonna do, and if you don't do what you say you're gonna do, you're gonna have a lot of angry people at your doorsteps." And I remember a lot of us were like, our mouths dropped open, like, "Holy crap!" It was so
I don't
shocking to me.
remember that.
Yes, I
Wow.
remember that, and
Oh shit.
I was like, my mouth dropped open. And I'm like, I'm kind of hiding my Obama shirt at the time, so I was like, okay, well, this is awkward,
Wow.
but it tells you like, I know I'm going off a tangent here, but like, I mean,
No,
Rage
I
Against the
mean
Machine was
I
one of the,
invited it, so
yeah, but the Rage Against the Machine, I mean, it was such um, a transformative moment, and it would be the
we'll have
next
to
one
have
to
a
see.
follow-up
Oh,
Lollapalooza
we will.
conversation.
Oh, we will. Oh, we will. So the next one,
Yes.
Toxic by Britney Spears.
Oh
Now,
yes.
I can't like not have a list without Britney, especially that particular song. I think this is one of her most enduring hits. I mean, it's a song that you can listen to, you know, I remember listening to it at the club and how fun it was to like dance to a song like this. And then I could like hear it anywhere and I can never get tired of it. It feels very current. The video was very iconic. I mean, her being naked in those in these diamonds that were like planted on her, and then her being the flight attendant. I mean, this was Britney's coming out. Well, I would say that this was her continued transformation from the the teenage girl to when we saw I'm a Slave for You, she was already starting to really, grow into her adulthood, the presentation of it. And then Toxic was kind of like the icing on the cake. Okay, like this, like the Baby One More Time, the Oops, I Did Again era, that's completely done with. I'm looking to march forward.
Mm,
And I felt that that was a very much a statement song. Um, Unfortunately, the last 15 or so, like close to 20 years, if we have to be very honest, it hasn't been kind to Brittany.
yeah.
And since her conservatorship ended, allegedly, however it looks right now,
Yeah.
it's hard to see how Brittany has become a shadow or a shell of herself because of
Hmm.
the damage the conservatorship did to her. I mean, you've got, family members, you got her team, doctors, people that really took advantage of her to the point where she can't trust anyone. And she would talk about how she can never make music again or, do the things that she loves. And it just breaks my heart because when I think of a song like Toxic, God, I can only think about the creativity that comes with it. Like it led to Blackout, the Blackout album, which
Mhm.
to a lot of people, this is like the gold standard of a Britney album, if there
Mhm.
ever was one. But for me, In the Zone album is just as good. And I think it's kind of like slightly better in my opinion. This is an album I listen to more than Blackout. And it's hard for me to say that because I love Blackout. But it's like it's like when you see the conservatorship and how it affected the quality of her music. Um, like working with Dr. Luke, working with, producers that she wasn't really into doing, and it just felt like you could see it in her touring, you could see it in the way she was giving herself, like just really not enthused. Like it was a chore to her, and she was forced to perform and record music that just wasn't in her element. But yeah, was Britney Spears a person that you were growing up? I mean, because I wonder what it was like for you growing up when Britney Spears was kind of like, oh, was a divisive issue. At least in high school, it was very divisive. Like, it's either like oh yeah, there were girls that hated Britney Spears, and there were men that had this or boys that had this misogynistic view of Britney Spears, So
Yeah.
yeah, I wonder about your thoughts on Britney Spears, especially around that particular era.
Yeah, damn. I had a Britney Spears poster on my
Aw,
bedroom wall from the time I was 8 years old.
aw.
So loved her all of my life,
Mhm,
I'm 37.
mhm, yeah.
Yeah, 8 years old.
Mhm,
Hit Me Baby One More Time came out when I was in third grade, and we loved her.
mhm,
Um, because, you know, well, I'll fast forward to reading
mhm.
her memoir
Yeah,
a couple years ago,
yeah.
and it taking me back to
Mhm,
being a little girl and being like, because she reflects on that time in her life. She
mhm,
was 16,
yeah.
and her parents like put her in the whatever child mall singer circuit in Louisiana, and she had a natural talent. She was naturally like a great singer.
Mhm,
She obviously she got some training, but like a great dancer. She had a love for
mhm,
performing.
mhm,
But she also like really loved basketball.
mhm. Yes.
And so when it came time for them to make the music video for Hit Me Baby One More Time, she was like, "Oh, I want to incorporate my love for basketball."
Mhm,
And I'm like literally like whatever recounting what I read in her memoir, but she was
mhm.
like insisted that like I want to show my basketball skills,
Yeah.
and they're like, okay, like the producers were like, okay, like that's not really what this song or this music video is about, but
Yeah.
we'll do it. And then obviously, as we know,
Mhm,
that was like her debut to the
mhm.
world
Yeah.
and becoming what we now know as like this global phenomenon.
Mhm,
And so I just think about like seeing that as a little girl and being like, oh, like you can be anything. Like you can be sporty, you can be a tomboy, you
mhm.
can be a singer, you can be a dancer. And like that's what like led me to be like, oh, I want to put her poster on my wall.
And there was a charm. There was a likability
Yeah.
about her. I mean, she got that $1 million smile. I mean, it was very natural, and it felt like she had the Southern charm, and you could tell, like from what people have said, that she's incredibly very nice. Like, she was
Yeah.
very polite, and it was something that we have to look back on when you see the Diane Sawyer interview, when you see some of the horrible interviews where she had to like answer like very invasive questions and somehow, being media trained, like she had to give manufactured answers. And it's like, man, she had never been able to grow up. And the minute that she was trying to discover herself, and unfortunately, it was a very chaotic time in her life. And
Yeah.
I really mourn the old Britney that really
Mhm.
had that charm, that had that sparkle in her eyes. And
Yeah.
and that's hard to watch. And sometimes I wonder, like, I don't need her to make more music or tour. Like, I just
Mhm.
want her to feel like she's being appreciated and people are looking after her. And I don't see that, and it kills me. And so it's like I don't know what's gonna happen. But,
Yeah.
but I mean, her legacy like is something that is unquestionable. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, she may not have the best vocal voice, but boy, she knew how to have presence. I mean, she had confidence in her dance moves. She's got the charm. The wardrobe is very memorable. The music videos are like all iconic, and it's like it's all part of the package
Yeah.
that a lot of other artists since then have not been able to go anywhere near that. Like, people talk about Tate McRae being like a Britney Spears second coming, and I'm like, I don't see I don't see that. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to sound like I'm a Gen Z hater. I just don't see that, and I
Yeah.
don't see a lot of artists with that kind of commitment and that kind of like power that she held. So,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
Toxic, definitely a quintessential Britney Spears song if there ever was one. Um,
100%.
Next one is the
Yeah.
late Amy Winehouse. I mean, Back to Black is probably gonna be in my top 25 albums because that is such a no skip album to me. Um, I had to choose which one it is. It came down to probably like Valerie, the Mark Ronson mix. And then
Cry. Yeah.
Um, You Know I'm No Good is one of my favorite songs too. But Tears Dry on Their Own, um, I go back to that song plenty of times, still do. Um, and it takes from the Marvin Gaye and Timmy Terrell, Ain't No Mountain High Enough. It has that interpolation that's very recognizable. Amy Winehouse in her second album, The Back to Black, was kind of like a take on the 60s girl groups.
Mhm.
And the Ronettes, with Ron
Yeah.
Spector, the evil Ron Spector, Phil Spector, the evil Phil Spector.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
um, but the Ronettes and the Supremes, I mean, the more of the classic era. And I mean, when that album came out, I mean, not long after that, she was a tabloid fixture. I mean, she was in a very toxic relationship with her husband, a Blake Civil Fielder. There was substance abuse issues, codependency. Um, she was supposed to do like an extended tour in the US, which never happened. I think
Mm.
she was allowed because in 2007, and didn't really make any appearance in the US because, when she was dealing with her trials and tribulation, like her visa got um revoked, and she couldn't perform at the Grammy, so she had to perform telecast.
Mm.
Which she won some of the most major awards. And, to be honest with you, that was incredibly iconic. The way she won that Grammy, the shocked look on her face, and Tony Bennett, like, her role model, presenting that award to her via telecast. And, like when I think of Tears Dry on Their Own, I mean, this music video was filmed in LA and Hollywood, and it's at this motel. I can't remember the name of it. I was looking it up, and it's still in existence. Um, but it is it's a very sad album, and it's also a very sad song. I mean, the album is about the isolation and this loneliness she was feeling from, being with Blake, and 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 it was a heartbreak album,
Mhm.
and you could feel the pain in her songs. And unfortunately, this would be the last album, and this was released in 2006, and she would pass away in 2011, and not really having a follow-up album after that, which is very sad. But yeah, yeah. Do you have any Amy Winehouse memories? Anything that comes up about that particular era?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, also was like a huge fan when she came on the scene. I was in undergrad
Mhm.
at the time, and just like watching things unfold so rapidly around like her celebrity and like you know, folks trying to navigate like her or I guess not navigate, but like come to terms with her talent and her marketability.
Hmm.
That was tough to watch.
Hmm.
I think that like I again like came up in an era of like this was like early virality
Hmm.
or
Hmm. Yeah.
like uh like like Facebook had just become a thing
Yes. Yes.
and like YouTube
Just starting
just
to merge.
launched.
Hmm.
And so, and like the only way you could like watch music videos or the only way you could like watch celebrity interviews at the time was like if you had cable,
Hmm.
number one,
Yes.
and number two, if you had the ability to watch TV at a certain time
Hmm.
when that
Hmm.
show was airing, like on
Right.
MTV
Right.
or
Right.
whatever. And otherwise you would the only way you could experience like music was to go to the record store or
Hmm.
download it illegally on Napster
Yes.
or and so like that was my experience of like that era of music, like
Hmm. Listen to
Amy
the
Winehouse
radio too.
included.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and the
Hmm.
radio. And so if you didn't have a radio like in your dorm room, like because I was in college at the time, like then you were like didn't really know what was going on in the music world.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, like I would hear her on the radio. I would like see posters for her albums like, at the record store. And then I would then once like Facebook and YouTube launched, would see these videos
Hmm. Hmm.
of her like crashing out and like
Yes.
paparazzi hoarding
Hmm.
her
Hmm.
and her partners and out in the streets and shit, and it was like very reminiscent of like the shit I saw on the news from like Princess Diana when I was like
Mm.
a child. And so I was
Hmm.
just like, oh, history is repeating itself. This like
Hmm.
cult of celebrity is like so fucked up.
Hmm. Yeah.
And like even like as early as it was in like that era of media, I was like very clearly clocking,
Hmm.
oh, this is not going to pan out well. And
No.
then it didn't. And
Mm-mm.
it was so heartbreaking because,
Hmm.
yeah, so just
Hmm.
losing a talent like that. I think
Hmm.
about everything like she could have produced in the
Oh, I
years.
know.
Yeah.
I know. It's like she only gave us two albums, and she came around the time of Adele, Duffy, Lily Allen. I mean, so this was the wave of British soul singers that were just starting to take emergence, and Amy Winehouse was the ringleader of all of that. And
Yeah.
it is very heartbreaking. I did see the 2015 documentary, which is very hard to watch at times, also very infuriating
Mm.
with her dad, like who exploited her. And you could see some clips where he, like when she was on vacation, like the paparazzis came, so it's like as if he was kind of inviting them into her life when she really needed to be away from the noise, you know? And
Yeah.
so I saw the movie that was done on her, like the biopic, like 2 years ago, and I was like, this was not good at all. I mean, it was very
Yeah.
messy, and it just
And I
didn't.
remember it getting like panned by
It
critics.
did. It did. I mean, I wanted to support the movie, but it's like, again, I just feel like, could there be a revisit? Sure. But I think the 2015 documentary stands really strong about her own legacy, but her own um trials and tribulation that she had to experience outside of her own music, which is, just incredibly like on the level of like Princess Diana, like the chaos of, being in London and having to deal with, you know, dealing with substance abuse and dealing with um the demands of fame and the entitlement that, people want from her and in real time. So yeah. um, Next song. This is like probably one of the few songs, if not probably like in the more recent era. This tells you how, I don't want to say the word stuck, that a lot of the earlier 2000 songs still has a chokehold on me. But Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter. This is one of the more recent songs from the post 2020 lockdown era that I am like, yeah, this is like one of the songs that I have here. And it's a catchy, perfect song for 2024. Summer hit. Um, Sabrina had been making music for several years, but really broke through with this hit, along with Chaperone. I mean, her and Chaperone were like kind of like hidden, and next thing you know, they just exploded overnight. Um, and kind of like unprecedented for that moment. And I believe that she would open up for Taylor Swift for the Eras tour. And in the nearly past 2 years, she has amassed a number of hit songs. She's a big headliner these days, and um, yeah. So I think that when I look at her and Chaperone overnight success, it's like Gen Z's answer to, or Gen Z's like, okay, this is like our um Amy Winehouse or Britney Spears, not in a bad way, but like in terms of musical legacy, or
Yeah.
longevity. So I'm curious about your thoughts about Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah, it's interesting. I um feel a little bit like removed from this
Mhm,
like new generation, like you said,
mhm,
of like pop icons or like the new generation of pop. I certainly like am aware of their music. I find their music like very good and like
mhm,
catchy and interesting. And at the same time, I'm like I don't know if skeptical is the word, but like I'm
mhm,
very cautious
mhm, mhm,
because again, everything we've talked about up until this point tonight about
mhm,
like the cult of celebrity
mhm,
and the exploitation and the co-opting and the dangers inherent in the
mhm,
industry
mhm,
feel very like present
mhm,
even in like these newer performers.
mhm.
I think about how like Sabrina Carpenter, I think was she like a Disney kid or a Nickelodeon kid?
I can't remember. I didn't go that deep. I feel
Yeah.
like she was a Nickelodeon, but I could be very wrong. This is gonna be requiring a fact check here, but like,
No problem.
but I mean, she was already like, doing music for like a good decade until she really
Yeah.
pursued in 2024.
Yeah, so I know that she's been in the industry and she
Hmm.
was a child star.
Hmm.
And so I don't know. I'm also like very traumatized by watching the Nickelodeon
Oh yeah,
documentary.
yeah.
Like and so and like
Yeah. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
I know that what's her name? Ariana Grande,
Mm,
she's featured in the documentary, but she didn't participate in the documentary.
mm, mm,
But like obviously they use like footage from like the shows that she was on on Nickelodeon to like as evidence of like crossing a line and like, how are we depicting children and like children actors and working children.
mm-hmm,
Um all of that feels very very upsetting to me
mm-hmm,
personally.
mm-hmm,
And so I unfortunately can't divorce my reaction to people like Sabrina Carpenter from this feeling of like, I want to honor you as an artist and like you're an adult woman at this point and
mm-hmm,
like you're clearly talented. Like I watched her on the Grammys. Her
mm-hmm,
Grammy performance was like so great in
mm-hmm,
2025.
mm-hmm,
She's hosted and been on SNL a couple of times.
mm-hmm,
I watch SNL. And like feeling very much like, oh yeah, like you're so talented. You're a
mm-hmm,
talented artist.
mm-hmm.
But then in the back of my mind, I'm always like, to what at what cost?
Yeah,
At what
right,
cost are
right.
you a talented artist?
Mm-hmm.
Because I hope you're getting support. I hope you're not being exploited. I hope you're not I don't know, like it feels gross because I
It does.
can't help but think of all the history of the industry that has
Yes.
created
And you see the Taylor
and led to
Swifts of
this.
the world too. It's like, is this a good thing to be attached to? And it feels like the Mean
Yeah.
Girls Club. So it's like I don't know where to begin. Like I haven't really attached myself to Sabrina's music like really that much because I just feel
Yeah.
like it doesn't stick enough for me to be like, oh yeah, I really want to see Sabrina on at the United Center or Soldier Field, you know. Like so
Hmm.
I did not have that kind of like desire, but I'm like, but with this song I was like, yeah, this was a no-brainer to me. Like I played the hell out of that song.
It's a
I
great song.
yes. Yes. And the next one. So
Yes.
I could have done Can't Get You Out of My Head by Kylie Minogue, but I decided I'm just gonna be devil's advocate and go with Love at First Sight, the uh the rough remix, which I have to say by a hair I love that song just a tiny bit more than Can't Get You Out of My Head. Um but it was a very interesting time because um when she had already been established as a successful European Australian pop star, you know, for a
Hmm.
number of years. She had debuted in America with the cover of The Locomotion in 1988, and like from America, she had disappeared for like over a decade until 2002, 2001, or late early 2002 when her Fever album came out. And I remembered when I was like the College of DuPage. I was in community college my freshman year, and I remember the video "Can't Get You Out of My Head" came out, and I was like, "Wow, this video is so addicting," and I literally can't get enough of that song. I mean, I could still play that song and be okay with it. Like I love it. I mean, I've never been a big Kylie Minogue fan. Like a lot of her music doesn't really do it for me. I just feel like it's a little too moody and it feels very sleepy for me. It does. I mean, I know a lot of
Oh,
gay men would come after me if I diss on Kylie Minogue. I did say that Padam Padam was one of those songs that I cannot stand. I don't understand. I'm sorry, but I don't like that song. I don't care for it. It doesn't do it for
I
me.
respect your opinion.
Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, but I chose Love at First Sight because it was again, it's a very joyful song. I mean, I love the music video to it,
Yeah.
and it is a very good feel good club banger. Um, but it's interesting because right after that song, she um, didn't really spend any didn't really pay much attention to the US market. And she was very open about how she felt really happy about the reception she gets from the European and Australian markets, but the
Mm.
US market was a market that she didn't feel like is a priority for her, you know,
Mm.
and because of the travel, the and maybe having to live in the US full time because, to promote is a gargantuan task. And um but despite that, like, she has a cult following, kind of similar to the way Carly Rae Jepsen has in the US. Like if she performs in Chicago, at the United Center, it's gonna fill up.
Yeah.
Madison Square Garden, it's gonna fill up. If she does a
Yeah.
residency, which I believe she did in Vegas, people will flock to that. But in Europe and Australia, I mean, she was probably neck and neck with Madonna, you know,
Hmm.
as far as like her influence. But yeah, what were your thoughts about Kylie Minogue during that time?
Yeah, no, I seeing that you chose this particular Kylie Minogue song, Love at First Sight.
Hmm.
Um I was like 100% no notes. Um she has she produces music for a very specific
Hmm.
genre and a very
Hmm.
specific audience, whether she knows it or not.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so, and I agree with you, and that's fine, like to each their own.
Hmm.
I obviously like loved "Can't Get You Out of My Head."
Uh-huh.
Um, I love this track, "Love at First Sight."
Hmm.
Um, uh, am fine with padum padum like and so there's no like whatever like attachment to that because I feel like I'm older now and I'm
Hmm.
like I don't club, I don't go
Yeah.
out, so that's fine.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I think that yeah, it's more of a feeling of nostalgia of
Hmm.
like there was a time when folks were maybe I don't know, and maybe it's a little bit political too, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, it came after 9/11 too, so it's like
yeah.
the music and mood in like after 9/11 felt very dark and felt very like it didn't feel like we were given permission to celebrate. I mean, we were
Yeah.
also going in war with Afghanistan, you know, so this was already kind of like a very turbulent time, especially for me as a college student. It just felt like this darkening period, and there were a few songs that were very uplifting, and I think Kylie Minogue was like, boy, she was a breath of fresh air to me. And
Yeah.
as a gay man, I was like, wow, this is such an undeniable banger. I mean, yeah.
Mhm.
It's like actually interesting enough, there's a person named Kathy Dennis who wrote this song. Kathy Dennis did she was a two-hit wonder. She did the song Touch Me, which is a 1991 song. I love that song. She wrote that song and she wrote um Britney Spears Toxic. You know, so you think about the sister relationship to those songs, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, this really makes a lot of sense.
I had no
So
idea. Wow.
yeah, little fun fact there. Next one, similar to Carly Rae Jepsen, Foster the People, and I will, and it's not Pumped Up Kicks. Again, people will say, "Well, is that the group that did Pumped Up Kicks?" I'm like, it's not even their best song. In fact, I probably get tired of that song pretty quickly, you know. But
Mhm.
Helena Beat. Helena Beat is such an undeniably mesmerizing, like aggressive song, and I it is such a charged up there's a lot of charged up energy to this song. And
Mm.
you know, Mark Foster, who fronts that band, I mean, you know, I never knew what he was saying in those lyrics because he was singing at such a high falsetto, and
Mm.
I think goes um um I'm gonna mess it up. I'm having a brain fart here, but like yeah, yeah, it's okay. I tie my hand to a back so I don't fall that way. And I was like, okay, I never knew what that was until like very recently because I never
Mm.
bothered to like really pay that close attention to like it's such um a song that has had me in a chokehold for a number of years. I've seen Foster the People like three times, most recently last year when he came back on stage. You know, and the Tortoise album, that debut album, I mean, that was a no skip album. Although Foster People, I mean, although that one Pumped Up Kick song, I will skip over it, you know, from time to time. But I do
Yeah.
like that song as a as a live song. But I just I love the video. I love the song. I love the video. The video is kind of like a take on Lord of the Flies, if you've read that book, and
Yeah.
you know, and it has this whole world gone chaotic. You know, the kids are surviving and they're just trying to like, you know, go after one another, and they get it and they attack the band, they hold them hostage, and it was quite a video. It's a really weird video. It didn't seem to make any sense. I mean, none of their music videos from that particular album ever made any sense to me. Like when I look at Call It What You Want, I don't understand the meaning of it, but I love the music video somehow. Um but yeah, but Helena Beat, I mean, yeah, I just love it. I mean, the opening guitar riff, and it's just, oh, God, it's such a powerful. While it packs a powerful punch to me. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Again, in my research for this
Mhm.
conversation, I listened to this song for the first time. Well,
Mhm.
that's not true. I realized I had heard it
Mhm.
because I listened to this Foster the People album. As we've talked about, I love
Mhm.
indie music. That's like my preferred
Mhm.
genre. So I'm very familiar with Foster the People. Um, but like hadn't like really deep dived
Mhm.
into this song in the way that you described, having like seen the music video and like made the
Mhm.
connections and like really like connected with the song itself.
Mhm.
um i I feel like they are the kind of band where um yeah, I love a lot of their music and they're just so underrated.
Mhm.
um I particularly love their song, maybe this isn't the title, but it's like that. It's Sit Next to Me. Is that what it's called?
Yes, I love that song too. That's
Okay.
another good song. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's my favorite Foster the People song.
That's a good
And
one.
I agree with you that like Pumped Up Kicks is like a little bit yeah, it's
It's
overrated.
overplayed. It's
Yeah,
overplayed, but it's also
it's
like
overplayed.
it's also a very uncomfortable song. I mean, with the topic, it's
Yes.
really about school shootings, and this is like a really uncomfortable topic, you know?
Yeah. And I don't
So,
think
yeah,
that we have as a society have not really
reckon with that. We haven't
nope,
reckoned with that at
not at
all,
all.
and no, haven't, you
So
know?
like when
Yeah.
I heard it, I was like, oh shit, these guys are like really saying something and doing something. But like
Uh-huh.
the reaction from a lot of people was not that. It was
No.
like, why are you writing a song about this? And it was like, well, of course you fucking Americans think that. Like,
Pearl
so,
clutchers. Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's kind of wild to me, but like, I mean, other songs that I do, like Imagination, which is like really one of my favorite Foster the People
Oh,
songs.
that's a great song. Yeah.
I love, love, love that song.
Yeah.
It doesn't get enough love at all, but God, I go crazy when that song hits
Hmm.
my playlist. But yeah, Foster the People, I mean, I think underrated live band to watch. I
Yeah.
mean, such a fun band to watch. Um,
Hmm.
next one. The Game of Love by Michelle Branch and Santana. Santana was coming off the heels of his late 90s comeback album, Supernatural, which featured the ever so omnipresent Rob Thomas song, Smooth. And it's a song that really, I, I cannot listen to that song. If there's a hell, this would be my eternity. I can't listen to that song. It's so overplayed, but
I love
I'm
you.
sorry. I'm sorry. It's like
I
I
love you
just
for saying
can't.
that.
I cannot. This is like my eternal damnation that I have to live through. If there was one, this is what I'll be forced to listen to, you
Speak your
know.
truth.
Oh God. But but Michelle Branch, on the other hand, she was already a rising teenage pop rock star, along with Avril Lavigne and then Vanessa Carlton, who many people confuse her with. Um, Vanessa Carlton, for her particular song, A Thousand Miles. Um, and this song introduced Michelle to a very more adult contemporary a more contemporary adult contemporary audience. And Santana was still riding really high with that, with his previous album, which had a really strong guest lineup from like Lauryn Hill to Wyclef, to I don't know who else was on there, but like, well, aside from Rob Thomas, um, yeah, like like it's such a it's for I think when I think about this song, it's like a coming of age song for Michelle Branch. I
Mhm.
think this was such a turning point in her career. She came off of a very successful first album, you know, um, which to me still lives on. It's a very underrated jam to me. And and I think about how um beautiful and tender that song is. And originally Tina Turner was supposed to do the vocals instead of Michelle Branch, funny enough. And
What?
I have heard the Tina Turner version of it, and I mean, I'm a big Tina Turner fan. But it just didn't seem to fit because I think for a song like this, I think a person who was starting to come into their own, it made sense. And Michelle Branch like really took it and ran with it. Um, Interesting fact: this video actually took place in Chicago Pilsen neighborhood, probably around time where gentrification was starting to take place. But
Hey.
I'm not gonna blame Michelle Branch or Santana for that. Um, but you see that video, like they're in a bus. I mean, everyone's kissing, making out, like everywhere you go. But it's such a lovely song. And I don't know, was Michelle Branch a person you also grew up to? And were you listening to Santana back in the day?
Wow, Randy, you're blowing my mind with all of these facts, first of all. Yeah, I did not know um any of this lore. I want to revisit this song.
Hmm.
I definitely heard it on the radio growing
Hmm.
up,
Hmm.
and like was very charmed by
Hmm.
it.
Yeah.
I was in choir all of my life, like
Hmm.
from the age of like 8 to 18, like vocal choir or what what is it, concert choir,
Hmm.
um, all through like school. And so Michelle Branch, like, is in my vocal range.
Hmm.
I would like hear her on
Mm.
the radio and be like, oh, I can sing that. And like, try to sing and sing along and all that. And so like, this is definitely a song that came up as like, oh, this is so catchy. Like, I
Hmm.
love this until
Just
this
a little
day,
bit of this, a
Yeah, it's just
little bit of
so
that.
like, it's so catchy. And I will say, like, I succumbed to the Rob Thomas
Yeah.
Santana Smooth song, like as we all did.
Yeah.
um, and so yeah, like hearing the lore of how this like song came to be is like so,
Hmm.
and like the music video is so fascinating.
Hmm.
But yeah, I never like thought of this as I think I always thought of Michelle Branch in particular as one of those, what's the word, like kind of like above it, like
Hmm. Hmm.
above the
Avril
fray.
Lavigne, yeah.
Yeah, like she
Hmm.
never um but now in
Hmm.
retrospect, now that
Hmm.
I'm like much older and like looking
Hmm.
back on my like assessment of like the music industry and like
Hmm.
all the things
Hmm.
we've talked about thus far tonight, like I'm thinking about how, maybe that was a way to protect herself, to be like,
Yeah. And she
yeah,
was a
like,
mom too, and she was a mom too around that time,
oh, I did
and the
not
thing
know that.
and the thing with Michelle Branch was that I think she was also struggling with the record label too for a period of time,
Oh shit.
because I saw her perform in 2017 when she came back into music, when she had her
Mm,
album, and at that time she was getting engaged to the drummer of the Black Keys.
mm-hmm,
Um, and she had stayed away for such a long time, and we're like, well,
mm-hmm,
Michelle, like you have such a gift, and
mm-hmm.
like God, it felt so great to finally see her back doing music, but I
Yeah.
think, dealing with the record label, the politics of the industry just made it very difficult for her to release music when she was not even in her prime.
Mm-hmm,
Um, and but like when I go back to the first album, the two albums that she had, they were just instant classics. I mean,
yeah,
very catchy hooks, um
yeah.
very pleasant sounding music. And Santana, my interestingly enough, in the Cambodian community, especially among older people, Santana is very popular because
Oh,
songs like Black Magic Woman, Oyo Como Va, um Evil Ways, those are very similar sounding to Cambodian traditional music. It's very similar. And so when you see the line dances, Santana music will kind of sneak its way in. And it's like, wow, this really makes sense. And at that time, a lot of
yeah.
Cambodian rock artists during the 60s and 70s were listening to Western music, when the music was blared, when US soldiers were like, stationed around Cambodia. And so
Okay.
it grew on until the genocide began. But Santana was definitely a very popular favorite. So,
Wow.
yeah, I remember my dad getting that Supernatural album, and I don't think he listened to it ever since. And I think it's because of that stupid Rob Thomas song. Um, I, I cannot. Yeah, it's very colonizing. Um,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
terrible.
it's like that. It's like, but he also won like several Grammys, so it's kind of like, you kind of have to play the game. Like everyone had this love affair of Santana because he had disappeared for so long, and he was one of the OGs of Woodstock that's
Yeah.
still alive. And I know that he's been dealing with some health issues from what I'm hearing, and but what a legacy he has crafted, over
Yep.
the decades. And when I think of Santana and Michelle Branch being together, like these are two very different generations
Hmm.
merging
Hmm.
together. And it's like it brought me an appreciation of Santana's music, but it also made me respect Michelle Branch more as an artist, as a fuller
Yeah.
artist beyond the pop veneer. One, finally, it's Beyonce. We finally get to Beyonce here. I chose All Night. This came from the Lemonade album. This was coming on the heels of this whole marital strife, this whole drama between her and Jay-Z, the elevator incident where Solange knocked the hell out of Jay-Z. You know, kudos to Solange. But like, the Lemonade album was such a transformative period in her career. I think starting from her Four album and then to her Beyonce 2013 album, which was a surprise release of the visual album, she was starting to really assert her control. Like you could really see the maturation in her creativity, in her songwriting, in what she wanted to present. And she also, I think that Lemonade album was when she started to become more political. I mean, at that time, for a long time, like the first 20 years of her career, starting from her Destiny's Child days, she was considered like the safe star, like the more palatable pop star, and as she got older, I think that she became more and more emboldened, and that came on the heels of the song from that first single, Formation, where she really took the wheels on that song, and it was a very empowering anthem for Black people and for Black women especially. And you know, you see the flooding, her in the car. It kind of reminisces of what happened with Hurricane Katrina in 2005, um, and it really showed her embracing her Black identity. Um, and I was it was such it was such an unforgettable piece of work, that I saw the tour for it, and this was probably one of my favorite tours I've ever seen besides Renaissance, which came later on. But I was like so amazed by the production. Like I saw Beyonce with Jay-Z for the first On the Run tour in 2014. But then in 2016, when she did the Formation tour, my God, it was a whole nother dimension. She took it, like the visuals, the um, the special effects, the kind of staging that it required was unbelievable. There was one part when she did Freedom from the album, and the stage was filled with water. And next thing you know, like the water was splashing, like her and her dancers were like kicking, and the water was like splashing into the audience. I was like, wow, like this is like unheard of. And for a while, I would always hold Madonna as like the best um, live performing artist, but I felt watching that tour, Beyonce really took the torch and really ran with it. I mean, the love of choreography, the visuals, the storyline, um, and coming from a really powerful album like Lemonade, All Night was such a song that I go back to time and time again. I mean, this is about a song on pain and healing and reconciliation. I mean,
Mhm.
the lyric where she goes, "Baptize your tears and dry your eyes." I was like, ah, wow, this is such beautiful words, and it's underrated. It's an underappreciated classic, um, and I don't think she's ever sang that song live since the Formation tour. Surprisingly, I think because it's such a personal song, looking back on her relationship with her husband, this is this was a song that I think really carried the conclusion, near conclusion of that album. Yeah. So I'll stop and get your thoughts about what you remember about Beyonce before and during the Lemonade era.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that context about just like Beyonce's career
Mm,
and like her
mm,
legacy too, because um it's so wild.
mm.
I think about Beyonce maybe like more than the average person does. Maybe not. I don't.
I think we all say that too.
Yeah, like
The
maybe that's
beehive.
not true. But I think about because I really struggled with I
Mm,
like made
mm,
almost no notes on this
mm.
section
Yeah.
of our conversation
Mm,
when you sent me your notes.
mm,
I oh man, okay, yeah. I
mm,
struggle with
mm,
my feelings around Beyonce
Hmm. Hmm.
and always have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will like um encapsulate
Hmm.
that with some context that like um yeah, I've just like had so many conversations with people over the
Hmm.
years. So like I come from a gender studies background, like
Hmm.
I did my master's degree in gender studies
Hmm.
at UW, and like hearing myself say that, I'm like, oh, you sound so pretentious and like
Hmm.
so like whatever, like
Hmm.
self-righteous and
Hmm.
shit. And like even at the time, like, you know, my friends and peers and like everyone I knew was like, we like fuck with Beyonce, like we like love her music. And yeah, again, for me, it comes back to like I hate to like
Hmm.
nerdify this
No,
conversation.
no, it's fine.
Like, yeah, I'm just thinking about how like you can like an artist, you can like their music, you can like all these things, and then at the end of the day, like feel like pretty complex
Hmm. Hmm.
and have
Hmm.
complicated feelings about like their engagement with capitalism and celebrity and
Hmm.
industry. And I feel like I've said that about quite a few of the artists on
Hmm.
the list,
Hmm.
knowing that like I also love their music,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Hmm.
So yeah, for me, like it just continues this like trend and this conversation that I think we need to keep having as like
Yeah.
fans.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I agree with you 100%. Beyonce has created a platform for
Hmm.
so many artists in various disciplines and fields, whether it's like fashion or
Hmm.
like fine art or other musicians.
Hmm.
Um, oh my God, even like marginalized artists like drag performers and like
Hmm.
trans artists, like
Hmm.
she has elevated them in
Hmm.
a way that no one else
Hmm.
has.
Hmm.
Beautiful, necessary,
Hmm.
critical.
Hmm.
And at the same time, like, you know, she's a billionaire.
Hmm. Her and Jay-Z, I mean, and also Jay-Z's got a lot of s- um large skeletons in his closet too. So it's also very uncomfortable because I do love Beyonce's work and
Yeah,
I love seeing her tours. I mean,
yeah,
I have been just mesmerized by by the production, the intricacies of her work and her album and her last 10 years of her the last 10 to 15 years of her album. Like I did enjoy like the solo Beyonce, the first couple albums. I was like, I was okay with it. It was fine. It was,
sure.
whatever. I mean, it didn't make me that kind of a fan until 2011 and after, where she was really asserting her control, and I felt like, wow, she's really coming into her own. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I think that as to your point, Beyonce is a capitalist, and so I do struggle with that. I mean, like,
yeah,
I have been trying um to scale back about my own fandom and my own support of artists that are, very wealthy, very powerful, and um and so also how that contributes to like the toxic celebrity culture that we see in politics. And like there's a saying that, yeah, billionaires are not going to save us. I mean,
mhm,
so
yeah,
it's hard for me to like really get into the weeds about how I feel or how we feel about Beyonce. Like, yeah, as an artist, bona fide. What you mentioned, like the way she elevates other artists, especially with the black women country artists, that
yeah,
were like hidden. Um, and the conversation surrounding the impact of her music. But
yes,
yeah, there is a lot to be said about like, okay, do I really want to spend $700, $800 to have like a regular seat at a Beyonce show. Would I spend 65 dollars on a t-shirt?
Yeah.
Like I've been guilty of spending an F ton of money on that woman. It's like it's ridiculous. I mean, I remember like I went to Renaissance. I went there twice, back to back nights.
Hmm.
I bought like maybe two hoodies, two t-shirts, a program. Um, and I don't know what else I got. And then the merch guy was telling me, "Well, do you want your receipt?" No, not at all. And I just like walked away. I'm like, I don't want to know how much I spent. I really don't want to know how much I spent. I haven't looked at the final cost. I know it's got to be somewhere probably in the hundreds of dollars. And
Sure.
it's like, am I going to consume that kind of art? And I think this year,
Yeah.
I've been having this reckoning the past
Hmm.
year because I'm learning about how problematic my faves are. And it's like, do I really want to enable this? How do I view their music? How
Mm.
do I think about them moving
Yeah.
forward? So that's still a process. And Beyonce is definitely one of those artists that I'm, trying to figure out what that looks like. Am I going to invest like 700, $800 in a seat? Most likely not, I think I've seen it all. Do I want to, am I curious about the third installation of her series? I'd be curious about it, but I don't know how much I'm going to be invested into it. So
Right.
we shall see. So on
Yeah.
to the next one.
Right.
So, Bruno Mars is not a person I would typically put up there because like a good chunk of his songs, and I have seen him with my friend Jung like almost a decade ago. I mean, I think he's such a great live performer. He's
Mhm.
very likable and he's got really catchy songs, but like a good 70 to 80% of his catalog really irritates the hell out of me. Like I just cannot. Them and the Black Eyed Peas, I cannot like I don't I can go through life not hearing Uptown Funk or Marry You or Just the Way You Are. I could be happy not ever hearing that song ever again.
Yeah.
Um, but Treasure, now that song I really do like. I love the grooviness to it. It's very, it's not as overwhelmingly irritating as the songs that I mentioned. Um, I also kind of wonder because he just released a new album. I actually happen to like the new album. It's like, wow, this is like 30 minutes of fun and just chill. It has more of a Santana vibe to it. It's got more like him revisiting his visiting his Puerto Rican roots. And I found it to be enjoyable. Is it as memorable as his other, singles? Not as much, but I'm like, okay, I can really get with that album.
Mm.
But I think of Treasure. I mean, I've seen him do the dance, the choreography to that song live, on TV shows, and I'm like, man, this is such a killer song. Um, but I'm curious about your thoughts on Bruno Mars's career and thoughts on his legacy. Do you see him as a novelty veteran act? Because I kind of see a little bit of cheesiness with him. It's very camp, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, yes, I know he's a good artist technically, but I'm also like, is he like a serious artist? Is he
Yeah.
capable of like, digging deep emotionally and also socially, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think you have a strong, super strong read on his whole persona and like public um, presence. Yeah, just like hearing you talk about like this song that you chose in particular and just being like, yeah, like he is as a musician, like, we his songs are bops.
Hmm.
I agree that Treasure is like one of the better bops.
Hmm. Hmm.
um and yeah, I mostly like 90% of the time find a lot of his music to sound identical. Like all of his
Yes.
songs just kind of sound the same to me.
They're like, yeah, like I went to a cousin's wedding. I mean, like he's a fixture on in weddings, and
Oh,
like
of
my
course.
cousin, played Bruno Mars a couple of times, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
my God, really? Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to hear Uptown Funk. This is like, no, I don't want to hear 24 karat gold. I don't like, I'm just like, no. Like them and the like him and the Black Eyed Peas, like these are songs that I don't want to ever hear in my presence,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
But if that happens, it's like time for me to hit the bathroom break and get a water, get some water so I can
Yeah, and I
let
just
my
like
legs
I
up.
see him in that respect. I see him as like a mascot for this era in our culture, in our
Mhm.
Western culture,
Yes.
of being like very
Hmm.
palatable,
Hmm.
very
Very
like
safe. Yeah.
safe. Yes,
Yes.
that is the
Hmm.
word. Yes,
Hmm.
Randy. Like low stakes, very limited controversies. I
Hmm.
know there might have been some stuff
Yeah.
in his career about like drug use and
Or
things like
his
that.
finances too, his gambling
Oh,
issues.
okay. Ugh,
I
news to
mean,
me. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Like there's always something, right? So,
Right, 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 right.
um, yeah. So for me, it's like I read his music as very much like this is music that again, you can play at a
Hmm.
wedding.
Hmm.
Like, it's recognizable if it comes on the
Hmm.
radio, like to my like older South Asian
Hmm.
like immigrant parents. Like
Hmm.
they're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is Bruno
They
Mars,
do. Yeah.
So
When I saw him like in like about nearly 10 years ago when he did the 24K tour, um, there were a lot of like Filipino titos and aunties there. It was so cute. I have to say that I was like, wow, he really brought out that crowd. Like the older Filipino folks were really coming for him. Like they were really supporting him. Like, wow, this is like the cutest thing I've ever seen. Like
oh,
he had that kind of like charm. It's like,
yeah.
oh my God, it's like like he's like everyone's favorite son or nephew. Like you can kind of tell, and I think that's
Yeah.
very cute. I was never a big fan of like the Anderson .Paak and the Silk Sonic. Like I have respect,
Oh,
to the band, to the music, but
yeah.
it's I think as Jung would say, it's like music that you just F to, and it's like for me it's very forgettable. It's like I don't have attachment.
Yeah, some stuff is forgettable and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just a side project, and
Mhm.
so we're gonna go another across the globe to Korea. The next two
All right.
songs.
Oh my God.
Abracadabra by Brown Eyed Girls. Now, I lived in Korea for 3 years from 2009 to 2012. And that was kind of when, yeah, you have a shocked look on your face.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so I did live there, and that was kind of when K-pop, the second generation, was starting to really emerge. And I was like,
Wow.
wow, I mean, at that time, it was not coming into the US. It was starting to kind of slowly make its way. Big Bang was kind of making its way. This was before Psy came in 2012, which, he blew up, radio all over the world. But like, but when I was in my first year in Korea, like, Wonder Girls, Girls' Generation, Super Junior, Shiny, I mean, 2NE1, which, I'll bring up here, like,
Mhm.
they were really emerging and they were getting harder to ignore. Like, I would walk around the street and like every other store is like a cell phone shop, and you would hear like K-pop music blasting, like, and you would hear these songs over and over and over again, and it was irritating at times. It's like, God, I really miss Western music sometimes, like I can't like get past like the simple English chorus, and it gets stuck into your head. And when I was teaching English to my middle school kids, like, I would say something like, I'm trying to remember. I could say like sorry, like, and then all of a sudden they'll start doing that, sorry, 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 that song, and I'm like, oh, guys, stop it, people,
Oh
you're killing
no.
me. But but when Abracadabra came out, this was a game changer. I remembered where I was when I heard that song. I think like I was in my home, I was looking through YouTube, just out of curiosity, and you know. And this song came on, and I was like, wow, this is such a banger, but like it had this, seductive, very elegant, very racy vibe that was different from like say the Wonder Girls and Girls' Generation, which were more very friendly to like to a younger audience. This was feeling more adult. And in Korea, back then was more conservative in its and what um and how women are presented.
Mm.
And seeing that video, this was like probably one of the more controversial videos back then, because at that time you would see like two women are about to kiss, and that was
Mm,
a taboo in Korea. And
mhm.
so I thought that was like, wow, it really kind of started to push a lot of borders. And I felt like that song was started to really set the precedent for like, the 21 to Tiara to, later on will be the Blackpink and Twice. Like it became more bold. And I mean, it was so hypnotic. Like I could not get enough of that song. It was very like I've heard it at a drag show once, and I was like, man, this is so amazing. Like, I would get up to that song and go crazy to it because it's so, like, powerful and
Yeah.
and seductive again, as I mentioned. But also, like, as a gay man, like, this is the kind of song that a gay man can dream of. I mean, this is like the real slutty Korean pop, of that nature. So, yeah, I mean, fun story. I was I was, my friend Hannah invited me and a group of other friends because she said that she got tickets or that she got an invite to do the VIP to see Brown Eyed Girls launch that song at at a club in Haeundae, in Busan. And I was like, oh my God, we gotta do this. Like, this is wild, you know? And we were waiting for hours. I mean, I kid you not. Like this guy, this white DJ was like spinning records and doing the same spin, and it was getting so irritating. It was getting close to midnight. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting irritated. A lot of us were getting impatient. But when they finally got on stage, I mean, our digital cameras, digital cameras were on, and we're like, wow, we're this close, and this song was like really taking off, and ever since then, it's like I would tell stories to my old students about them. Like, yeah, I saw Brown Eyed Girls, especially when that song came out. Or I would tell like younger people that I saw Brown Eyed Girls. This was my first experience with K-pop
Mm.
live. And yeah, I love that song to this day. I'll probably love it for, for many lifetimes and whatever incarnation I turn into. So, yeah. What are your thoughts about K-pop? I don't know if you have any thoughts about this particular song or the K-pop groups of that particular generation.
Yeah. Oh my God. Thank you so much for sharing that story. I did not. Yeah. That's so beautiful. I feel like I have talked to, so yeah, growing up I was not a K-pop fan. I would like
Hmm.
fully disclose just
Hmm.
because I didn't have access to that culture and like
Hmm.
yeah, for whatever reason like it missed me.
Hmm.
Um
Hmm.
but I obviously like I'm friends with K-pop fans who have
Hmm.
had like experiences growing up and like um that sense of like belonging and like
Hmm.
community and
Hmm.
like camaraderie and like
Yes,
fandom.
yes,
Like I
yes.
feel like fandom is almost like this what's the word, like it's diminishing because it's like it's more than fandom. Like
Yes,
it is community. And so like
yes.
hearing you share that story, I was like very like, oh, that's so moving, that's so special and
Hmm.
charming. Like um, yeah, I've like only recently been introduced
Hmm.
to K-pop, like quite
Hmm.
frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because again, I like didn't have access to it growing
Hmm.
up.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's so I don't know. I'm just like more like wanting to hear about like
Yeah.
your experience because yeah, I like obviously I like I watched for example like I watched K-pop Demon Hunters because it's
Yeah.
like it's everywhere, right?
Yes, yes,
And like
yes.
that was the thing. A lot of people are talking about it as like oh, like there's always been this subculture in the West where like Asian Americans have like really been like promoting
Hmm.
K-pop and like holding that
Hmm.
fandom
Hmm.
for like the past decade or more. But like what K-pop Demon Hunters did
Hmm.
is it brought it like to the surface and it
Yes.
like brought it to the forefront. And like I think that's absolutely true.
Hmm.
And so, like I watched the movie. I like watched all of the like fanfare around it.
Hmm.
I watched all the award shows where they were like rightfully like awarded for like,
Hmm.
the various like the vocalists and like the performers and the creators and all of the talent that went into
Hmm.
creating that film. Um like that has been like so special to see. And like in retrospect, I'm thinking back on like, oh, like there's a whole legacy that
Hmm.
led to this moment.
Hmm.
Like there's a whole legacy
Hmm.
of all of these acts, all of these bands, all of these groups, all of these performers. Um, and so like, yeah, hearing you talk about like essentially being a part of building that, like feels really
It's
cool.
wild. It's kind of wild because, I was not invested into K-pop much after I left Korea,
Okay.
like I would listen to Twice, I listened to Blackpink. I went to a Twice concert a few years ago and it was my
Yeah.
first real K-pop concert, and it was at the United Center, and my God, the audience was wild. Like I have
Mm,
been to a lot of concerts, but I mean, you have girls screaming at the top of their lungs. You have like men and boys, like like literally memorizing like every part of the choreography. Like there's like a serious level of dedication that I have not seen in fandom. Like even even more so than a Beyonce concert, where like at a Beyonce concert, at least the last few, you would see people literally dressed up, like
mhm,
like for Renaissance, people were wearing the disco hats and wearing all silver. For
mm,
Cowboy Carter, everyone was dressed up as a cowgirl or a cowboy, and or at least in a Western themed outfit. You know,
wow.
I participated in that too. Um, but for like K-pop concerts, it's like there is like some serious dedication
Yeah.
to like learning the words, the choreography. I'm like, wow, this is like sometimes I wonder, is this really healthy or is this like really community building? So I kind of go back and I oscillate back and forth between that.
Yeah.
Um and the thing was that I never took K-pop like that seriously
Mhm,
in some ways, as far as because the way, again, we talk about the Western music industry, the Korean pop industry is very toxic. I mean, the way like we have seen like, some of its stars have, been unalived to suicide, and you see like the level of intense labor that they have to go through, and
mm,
also like as a person who grew up on the Madonnas of the world and the Janets and the Lady Gagas, like where it was about the forceful nature, like the FU, and K-pop didn't have that for me. It was kind of missing that, and I've been wanting more of that energy because
mm,
I feel like as an Asian person, I'd like to see more assertiveness from
yeah.
us in a way that's very unapologetic.
Yeah.
Um, you know so the next one would be Fire 21. I mean, 21 to me, I mean, I love their music. I think that I was hoping to see them reunite. I mean, they kind of did a brief reunion last year, but I'm like, I want them to do a tour because I would pay to see them. Like
Mhm,
their music was like a predecessor to the Blackpinks, the Twice, um Cat's Eye, and like and so many other groups. And
mm,
I mean, this song was like, I remember hearing Fire. I mean, like, this was a club banger. Like, I would dance to like a Korean nightclub. Man, I would go off. Like, it is such, um, it's a song that just gives me life. And I look back at my 3 years in Korea, and I'll listen to like those songs, and it really
mm,
takes me back to a really good place sometimes. Like, wow, this is timeless for me. Um, Next one, a Korean artist, but not K-pop. Be Sweet by Japanese Breakfast. This was from Michelle. Well, the front person, Michelle Zauner, who would be known as the author of her memoir "Crying in H Mart." That's kind of when I started getting to J Braki, which is their nickname of Japanese Breakfast. And
mhm,
Japanese Breakfast had been around since like 2014. It was like right after um her mom's passing, which led to the memoir a couple of years ago. And you know, their music has always been very indie. It's very ballad. It's very slow. It's very sad and somber at times, and very wistful. Um, but Be Sweet is like it's like a contrast to their catalog, and
Mhm.
it's probably like one of the few very upbeat Jay Bracky songs. It's got a very retro 80s sound to it. It's she's a mixed Korean American, and it's pretty cool. It's like she's got great fashion taste. I've seen her a few times in concert. Really enjoyed it. I mean, she like it's hard for me to not root for her because I feel like, she has such, good music. And
Yeah.
have you listened to Japanese Breakfast and have you read Crying in H Mart?
Yeah, love Michelle, love Japanese breakfast. This is so revealing of me as a Pisces.
Mm-hmm.
But like I have purposefully not read Japanese breakfasts or sorry,
Of Crying in H
Michelle's.
Mart.
Yeah, I have not read Michelle's Crying in H Mart memoir because I know as a Pisces I will
Mm-hmm.
like be a wreck. And so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna like give myself some time. Maybe like when I have a sabbatical or like time off from work, I will like take some time where I can actually like read it and process my emotions and like cry a lot and
Mm-hmm.
like, because everyone I've talked to who's read it, which is like almost everyone in my life, has been like, it's so good. I was so emotional. And I
The
was like,
first
well, if
chapter.
you were
Yeah,
emotional,
you have to get past the first chapter. That's kind of where I feel like if you can get past the first chapter, that's great. It becomes a little
okay.
bit easier to bear. But that first chapter was tough. It was beautifully written, but God, it was. I mean, I'm a Pisces rising, so I mean, I got very emotional. I think I was in Maine and I was outside and I started reading, and I got very sobby,
Yeah,
you
like I
know.
cry
Uh,
at the top of hat. So, um yeah, this is good to know. But yeah, no, her music is it's so great. And I agree with you. I think Be Sweet is my favorite song of
hmm
hers.
hmm
She's just she's so great. She's so talented. She's like rose up through the ranks again from like indie to more
hmm
mainstream and like has like really maintained an integrity around her voice and her
hmm
sound and her writing and her musicality.
hmm
Um, and yeah, she's just one of those artists that I really admire. I
hmm
think we're maybe close in age. I'm not quite sure,
hmm
but
hmm
yeah, I was like, I'm so glad you included her
Yeah.
in your list because yeah, and on top of that being like not that like she has asked to be a representative of like
hmm
mixed race Asian American artists,
hmm
but like for better or worse, she is a representative.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people look up to
hmm
her and
hmm
find a lot of inspiration and motivation in her journey.
Yeah.
So,
And I think
yeah.
this is and also what I respect about her is that she's willing to she's very open about reclaiming and trying to understand her Korean identity, especially in the wake of losing her mom, who is a Korean woman. And part of Crying in HMR talks about that loss of culture and
Okay.
and because it was tied to her mom. And so there was a
Hmm.
big tug of war, and it is a good read, and it made me really appreciate her music and the
Hmm.
softness and tenderness that she carries in a lot of her songs. And you know you think about the other Asian Americans in or the Asian diaspora artists, like Olivia Rodrigo, Anderson .Paak, her, Mitski. I mean, they're all kind of like in that same like peers level, like, dealing with, mixed identity,
Yeah.
dealing with trying to navigate what it means to be a representation, even though this is not something that you ask for, but like this uncertainty about like where your identity is and what your music means and how it hits your own audience and in your own communities that you
Yeah.
are a part of or that you're born into. Um, Next one is one of my favorite. 2001, we're in the 25-year anniversary of the Moulin Rouge. Lady Marmalade, Pink, Maya, Christina Aguilera, Lil Kim, and a little cameo by Missy Elliott. It was the summer of 2001. I had just turned 18 years old, and that song was such a banger. Wow, I can't tell you enough how much it reminds me of the one of the few memories the few good memories I have of senior year in high school. And um, I remembered, Pink was emerging as a star. Christina Aguilera was starting to really emerge, past her debut album and into the Stripped album, which would come later. And, Pink was also transitioning, into going from an R&B artist to a pop rock artist to the second album, Misunderstood, which would be released later that year.
Mm.
Maya was emerging as another big artist, Lil Kim, also a emerging female hip hop artist. Um, it was also a cover of Patti LaBelle's original hit. So, yeah. What do you remember about that particular era with Lady Marmalade? Because I fucking love that song.
Randy, this is crazy. I have such strong memories about
Mm.
this song. And again, I'm just like, maybe we were on some kind of same parallel
Uh-huh.
magnetic field. Even though I'm like, yeah, was in middle
Hmm.
school when this song came out.
Hmm.
But oh my God. So I had a very tight core group of girlfriends in sixth grade
Hmm.
when this song came out. It was like me and three other girls in middle school.
Hmm.
And I somehow like these girls decided, so the song came out
Hmm.
and these girls decided we're gonna do our own choreography
Hmm.
for this song. And again, this was before social media, before no
Hmm.
one had cell
Hmm.
phones, no one had
Hmm.
laptops. So it was just like, we're doing it for ourselves. We're not
Hmm.
recording it. We're not doing it for anybody.
Hmm.
We're like literally just like, we're gonna do some choreography to Lady Marmalade.
Hmm.
And like that was like now that I'm like thinking back, it was like, oh, like that's how you like solidified your friendships as like a young
Hmm.
person in
Hmm.
the early 2000s. Like that's how you
This is
whatever,
before
like
TikTok. And this was before
yeah,
TikTok. I
it
mean,
was
you
before
could, yeah.
any, yeah, like none of that existed. And so I have just like these vivid memories of like being in my friends, one of my friends' living rooms and like like doing choreography to Lady Marmalade.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and am I in touch with any of those girls now, 20 years later, 25 years later?
Hmm.
Mm, no.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
like, the memory remains of
Hmm.
like, it was like this, whatever, like that was the thing that like little kids did.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
It
that's
was my
my memory.
karaoke. It was my karaoke choice plenty of
There
times.
you
And
go. There
and
you
I
go.
mean, obviously I do not have the voice of Christina, and I would try to hit the high notes, and that didn't work so well. I would do the little Kim rap, and I would get that, so I'm happy about it.
Dang.
Maya, I'm trying to get on my show still, so cross my fingers.
Fingers
Because
crossed.
and also because I kind of want to know what happened between Pink and Christina because they were fighting. They were at each other's throat.
Oh my
And
God.
they have since made up,
That's
years later
crazy.
because Pink is in her, Pink and Christina are in their soccer mommy stage, which
Mm-hmm.
I miss the old Pink. I like petty Pink when she was very much very angry and
Mm-hmm.
you can't tell me what to do, and I love that about her. And she was a hell
Uh-huh.
of a and she was a hell of a dancer too.
Yep.
Um, you know, but they had a but I think there was this memorable conversation that Pink recalled when she was when the women were in the meeting. uh Christina and her record label guy comes in the meeting and says, well, who's good, so this high note is gonna go to Christina. And then Pink raised her hands like, well, this is not what the meeting's for. Like, the meeting's for who is going to do it. And 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 she took it very personal, and she's like, well, she's not gonna have the high note. And well, lo and behold, Christina, ended up doing the high note, and rightfully so. She had the range for it. I mean, not to knock on Pink, but there was a little bit of a tussle between those two for a while, and I kind of want to know what happened. I don't think Maya's the kind of person that would be messy that way, but damn, I kind of want
Mm.
to. What I would give to be a fly on that wall when when that,
Hmm.
But damn, what a great song! Can't believe it's 25 years old. It's very unnerving. Um, So thank you for joining in. So this is part one of our long deep dive with my friend Anjali Misra. And so part two is going to come out the following week, and it'll go from number 18 to number 25. So hope you stick around for that. And as we talk more about the impact and the legacy of these songs and the artists that created them. And yes, and if you like the podcast, feel free to give it a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and share the Substack, share the YouTube to folks that would be entertained by this. So thank you, and let's hope that you stay in for the next one.